Views expressed are solely those of the speaker and not necessarily those of Paltalk.com, AVM Software, or its advertisers.
News Talk is online. News Talk Online is a production of Paltalk.com, the largest multimedia interactive program on the internet with more than 4 million unique users. On demand on iTunes and on YouTube and on my blog, GaryBaumgarten.com, where you can post your comments, whether you agree with yours truly or not, no retribution. And where you can subscribe to my Twitter feed, twitter.com/GaryBaumgarten. Lots of information on lots of news that you may or maybe may not hear about in the mainstream media. And thanks to our good friends at CRN Digital Talk Radio, we're syndicated to an additional 12 million households. I am your host, Gary Baumgarten. I welcome you to the show. Boaz and Alan, I received a complaint today that my show is one-sided. Now, they didn't say whether it's leaning to the left or to the right, but I think from what I was reading, the complainant thought we were leaning to the left. Now, I consider myself pretty moderate. I'm an independent kind of a person. Sometimes I'm with the left, and sometimes I'm against it. Sometimes I'm with the right, and sometimes I'm against it. And last I checked, my two producers, Boaz, you're conservative, and Alan, you're a progressive, because you're afraid to use the word, the L word, so you call yourself a progressive. Where does this concept come? Where do people get the idea when we encourage people to disagree with the host of the show that we're leaning in one direction or the other?
Gary, it's hard to say where these things come from. I think this is the fairest forum that I've ever been a part of. And, I'll call Alan a liberal. I'll call myself a conservative. What to call you? I really don't, to be honest with you, Gary, I don't even know what to call you. You're a newsman. You present the news, and people are supposed to comment on it. Now, look, Gary, everyone has a certain opinion. And no matter how fair you try to sound, your opinion may, by presenting the news, and this is just not you, this is every newscaster that I've seen on TV, heard on radio, will present it leaning to one side or another using certain words or certain phrases that may sound either conservative or otherwise, or liberal. So I suspect that the people, or those that are complaining about this show in particular, are those that can't stand other opinions that just don't align with their others, and that's usually how it turns out.
Yeah, well, I'm not saying that I'm unbiased by any stretch of the imagination. I have a point of view on every issue that we discuss, pretty much, right? I have an opinion, but I'm not an ideologue by any stretch of the imagination. I don't read the Democratic playbook or the Republican playbook, for example, before I speak out on something. Sometimes I say things that each party might agree with, and sometimes I say things that each party might disagree with. It's just, it's just, I'm not humble worthy. I'm not saying that I'm humble by any stretch of that imagination either. It just really gets to me when, or it doesn't get to me, but it surprises me. It never ceases
you know what bothers me. You know what bothers some people, Gary? I think it bothers some people, and in particular, we've experienced here on Paltalk, Gary, and I see it on other chat programs also. You see it on Twitter feeds. You see it in the news groups. There is a large crowd of people and that have an opinion that has to do with the 9/11 attacks and and a particular religion. And it's very popular today to be anti-Islam. Very, very popular. If your short-sightedness is if you're short-sighted, it's very popular to be that way. And it's extremely.
boss,
but you know what, Gary? It's extremely unpopular for you to say that it's not the religion, it is the extremists. It's very unpopular to say that, and you're going to get flack about it. Now, I happen to agree with you, but you're going to get flack about that.
Well, there are people who obviously incorrectly blame 9/11 on the Jews or the Israelis as well. It's just real difficult to try to straighten people out when they've got a narrow look of things and they look for facts or anecdotal evidence that supports their conclusions already. So it's pretty sad. But anyway, that's the world we live in, and everybody's got an opinion, and they're welcome to it, and they're welcome to share it here on News Talk Online on Paltalk.com, whether they agree with me or not. Okay, speaking of terrorism, nice segue, Boaz, thank you for setting that up. The British government has been saying for months now, maybe a year or more, that they have evidence that homegrown terrorists are going to attack their homeland again. And seemingly not very many people are paying attention to that. Well, today we are learning that Al-Qaeda itself is claiming that it plans massive attacks, spectacular is a word that they use, in the United Kingdom. And so it's time to pay attention a little bit more. What I find disconcerting, and we've discussed this before, is the fact that there are those of the Islamic faith, many of them Pakistani descendants, who live in the United Kingdom who have not assimilated. I mean, they're saying homegrown. These are British subjects that were born in the United Kingdom, many of them, who have been planning these terrorist attacks. Here in the United States, hopefully, as it's a generational thing sometimes, people come here and for some reason they come here if they dislike the United States. Why they would come, I don't know. But the next generation gets assimilated into the culture and doesn't harbor these ill feelings like the first generation does. But that doesn't seem to be what's happening in the United Kingdom. And I want to call Cassandra up first because she's right there, and it puts the government in a real bad position if they go into certain neighborhoods. I have already seen stories about this. And they try to find these people who would harm their fellow British citizens. They're being accused by some organizations of being racist or anti-Muslim or something, when in fact all they're trying to do, as far as I can tell, is protect the homeland. Cassandra, welcome to News Talk Online on Paltalk.com.
Well, thank you very much, Gary.